back to another edition of Current Events, the news with Mr. Bombeck and Mr. Kruger. Now, what? What was it? Oh, wow. We have breaking news coming from Mr. Bombeck right now.
Thanks, Mr. Kruger. As you can see, I'm standing here at our beloved park, George Park. The mayor just announced that all parks are officially closed. And starting last Friday, if you show up at the park and get caught by the cops, you'll be issued a citation. And not only are city parks closed, also are all school playgrounds, basketball courts, tennis courts. So make sure you stay home and flatten the curve. Back to you, Mr. Kruger.
Well, we have heard a lot of feedback from all you guys from the last couple of weeks. And you know what? The coronavirus is obviously a very serious topic, but it's kind of a bummer, all right? And so we're going to try to focus on some better news stories or some good news of the week. And the first one has to do with two doctors from the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, singing Imagine. Check out this great clip.
Finally tonight here, America Strong, the message from the doctors, Imagine. Tonight, the two American doctors with the message.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try.
Dr. Elvis Francois singing, Dr. William Robinson playing piano. Orthopedic surgeon residents at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, singing John Lennon's Imagine after their shifts ended.
Imagine all the people living for today.
Both of them telling us tonight why they did it.
It just felt like a good time to share that bit of hope and togetherness and do a bit to make someone's day out there a little bit better.
But I'm not the only one.
In order to beat this thing and self-isolate and quarantine, you know, it's going to take everybody. And so the message of that song kind of hit home.
Doctors are some of the most important people in our country right now. That's pretty obvious. Many of these doctors and nurses across the United States are being separated from their families. One heartfelt one goes out to this doctor in Arkansas right here. He and his son were separated by different houses because they were worried that he was working with coronavirus patients and that he wouldn't be able to see his son. Then that week in Arkansas on Monday, they were hit with tornadoes. His entire house was destroyed while he was in it. Luckily, the rest of his family was at the wife's family's house. But what has happened since is amazing. $125,000 has been raised through a GoFundMe page, help supporting this doctor rebuild his house and rebuild his life. He's helping out other people, and now the world's coming out to help him. Murder, a pretty typical topic that we have in current events. Now, Lita apparently said the last couple of videos has not had enough murder, but we got one for you. Here you go, Mr. Bombeck with the story.
As we know with the coronavirus, older people have it a lot rougher than the younger people. They don't have as good of an immune system, so they're more likely to catch it and die. Here's the deal, though. A lady in New York took it a step further. We know that there's these social distancing laws where you're supposed to stay at least 10 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet away from each other. In New York, an 86-year-old lady was not following the social distance laws. A 32-year-old lady's like, I don't like this. So she hit her across the head and pushed her, eventually killing the 86-year-old lady. Guys, I know times are rough, but all you have to really do is say, ma'am, please step back.
You guys are dumb, but not as dumb as some of these people. A new segment is the dumb news of the week. Coming to you first from a guy from Oregon. A guy in Oregon decides, you know what? I don't need to drive. If you have a dog, it's good enough. He teaches his dog how to drive his car, and the dog is driving so fast, he's going 112 miles per hour. This leads into two different accidents that the car didn't pull over for, and a high-speed chase that ended with Oregon State troopers using spike strips to stop the vehicle. And then the owner just said he couldn't stop his dog from driving. He's just going just a little bit too fast. I would consider that to be a rough day.
Hey, Mr. Kruger, do you think the cars had subwoofers?
Now, it's your favorite segment. For some of you, least favorite for some of you, the dad joke of the day. Hey, why couldn't the toilet paper cross the road? Because it got stuck in a crack. If you don't love that one, I don't love you.
Wow, Mr. Kruger, that was pretty harsh. Hey, before I start my dad joke, I just want to give a shout out to last week's joke. That one came from Lizzie Sykes. This week, dad joke of the day comes from Ava Stein. Here we go. So, I was scrolling through Facebook, because I'm pretty bored time, and I saw a radio for sale, $1, volume stuck on full. I thought, that's just a deal I can't turn down. Breaking news coming in from Mr. Kruger.
Thanks, Mr. Bonick. This is Mr. Kruger, live from Greenhouse Live. Breaking news. The May 17th graduation is on. The only difference this time is going to be online. For the first time ever, the commencement speeches are going to be all online. Dr. Grover, Mr. Gilbertson, everyone is going to be speaking from different locations to combat this coronavirus. What? What was that? Even worse, we have new breaking news from Governor Ricketts saying that all schools are going to be closed across Nebraska for the completion of this school year. All classes are going to be online, e-learning only. That includes you, Westers Cougars. Unfortunate events are happening out here right now. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Bombeck.
Wow, you're right, Mr. Kruger. That is some pretty big news. I wonder how that's going to affect the 8th grade graduation. I think your 8th grade teachers might have some ideas in hand. One of your 8th grade students did provide some good information. Jared Lorenzo, in the article he shared, talked about stress management. All of us teachers know that this is a very stressful time. You guys need to make sure that you leave some time to yourself so that you can manage your stress. Staying low-key and keeping stress away is important to not only your schoolwork, but also your mental health.
Wow, that's some pretty great information there, Mr. Bombeck. Now, I know there's been some teachers out there that might have called you terribly human beings. What you guys need to know, you're not, all right? You're probably one of my favorite classes that I've ever had. And luckily, through this crazy circumstances with the coronavirus going to e-learning, I think you might be the best. We have high participation and we have great kids continuing to work and learn. I'm proud of you guys. Keep up the great work.
Ba-da-dum, ba-da-dum. It's sports time. Guys, I know the New England Patriots are some of the biggest cheaters in the world. Hint, Deflategate, right? But this coronavirus is bringing out the best in people. Robert Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, flew the team's private jet to China to pick up 1.7 million masks for $2 million to bring back to the Massachusetts area and donate. That's a pretty impressive feat for one man to pay for it all himself. Mr. Kruger, what's your news story?
Thanks for asking, Mr. Bombeck. Now, running. A lot of people debate even that's a sport. It's a sport. One of the first sports, hashtag check the Olympics, hashtag next year, okay? But running, all right, as a former cross-country runner myself and track athlete, it's hard, right? You know what makes it even harder? Running in your backyard. A guy in London, England, decided to run an entire marathon in his backyard that is only 16 meters long. That's not very long, guys. What he ends up doing, a marathon is 26.2 miles. He makes 7,000 trips in 5 hours in his backyard to run this marathon. Now, coolest story about this, he did it to raise money to help feed the hunger in England. Boom. That's sports. All right, guys, this news story has to be shared. There's too much negative news in the world that I thought we needed to have a good news story. So I found this story about a girl named Coco. Coco, also real name Courtney, is 14 years old and has cancer. And so for the last year, she's missed out on her first year of high school, getting cancer treatment and surgeries removing cancer from her body. Now, she's done, cleared cancer, looking good. Usually a huge celebration can happen, but with the coronavirus, this can't happen. Her community and her neighborhood puts on this awesome social distancing event. Check it out. If that doesn't get you right in the feels, I don't know what does.
All right, 8th graders, that is your current events for the week. As always, go Cougs.
Whoa. You forgot about the most important segment, Mount Rushmore.
You're right, Mr. Kruger. How could I forget about the Mount Rushmore? A lot of my Gold Team students said that this is their favorite part of the segment. So, this week we're going to do our Mount Rushmore of cereals. My number 1, Berry Colossal Crunch. Here's the deal. It's not a real brand besides a Walmart brand, but it's basically Captain Crunch with marshmallows, and it's just straight delicious. That is by far number 1. Really the only cereal I eat. Number 2, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Not bad. Number 3, Reese's Puffs. You know how healthy I eat when I eat in front of the class. And my last one, kind of an outsider, kind of a weird one, Raisin Bran, but you gotta add the sugar. You can't eat it plain. I'm not that old, but I'm getting there. Mr. Kruger, what's yours?
Cereal. We got a couple major stipulations. First, you absolutely put the cereal in before you put the milk in. Second, you absolutely have to finish the entire box of cereal before starting a new one. Big problem. Don't be those people. Now, to my list. Number 1, without a doubt, great cereal, Frosted Flakes, okay? But it's a race. You have to eat it fast before it gets soggy. Then it's terrible, right? It's got to be quick. When you're going, and it's cereal time, it's go time, right? Next, gotta love some good old Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Always a good cereal. Number 3, Peanut Butter Crunch from Captain Crunch. But you gotta be careful, right? They kind of get like too hard where it almost like cuts your mouth. Same with number 4 being just regular Captain Crunch. Love them, but they definitely seem like fiberglass at times. Now, I've got one problem, and that's with Mr. Bombeck. Raisin Bran, what are you, 80? Rushmore, fan favorite segment. Last week, we got a whole bunch of suggestions from people about why don't we say the most common answers from the Mount Rushmore from the week before. So here we are. Okay, so first, tons of people for the Netflix series love the Netflix show called All American. Right? I've actually seen that one. It's a little overly dramatic for my liking, but it's pretty good. All right? There's some good football and that kind of stuff too, and there's drama. So, you know, it doesn't matter. Even if you're not a football person, you might like that one. Okay, the other one is huge Office fans. I know that was Mr. Bombeck's one of his favorite. I like that show a lot too. Office, that's just a timeless, great show. Okay, and then there's a new one. I actually had to look it up because I've never heard it before. On My Block. Okay, that's apparently geared towards your age. I started looking, not a bad show, all right? It looks decent, highly dramatic. And then Gilmore Girls is the 4th popular one. We thought it would be kind of fun to end our segment for the day is to be sharing some personal things that we've had with you guys as 8th graders. And then we thought maybe a photo would be a good idea. So this photo here is probably one of my favorite photos from 8th grade. It has to do with these losers on the girls' basketball team, all right? We had a lot of fun, and I think this picture helps shows us. Don't let memories fade away or be too upset about the coronavirus. There's nothing we can control. We thought maybe sending and sharing some of our favorite photos would be a good idea. We'll post some of those for next week. Mr. Bombeck, what are yours?
Thanks, Mr. Kruger. Like you said before, this 8th grade class is pretty awesome and definitely in my top 5. I mean, it's my only 5th year teaching, but they definitely make the top 5. However, I also do have a lot of good memories. Like this picture right here. One of my favorite memories from this year's 8th grade class. Guys, I know this time sucks, but I promise you we'll all be back together before the next school year, even if school's out for the summer. So, signing off this week, as always, Mr. Bombeck and Mr. Kruger, go Cougs.